your forgiveness. Mrs. Drew has 2 dogs, all right? She has 3 times as many chickens as dogs. 3 times as many chickens as the dogs. That right there, up to that period, tells me she has more chickens than dogs. So I'm gonna put C right here, D right here, with 3 bars beside the chicken. And she has 2 dogs. So I'm gonna put my 2 in there. I can automatically plug in my bar model right now because Mrs. Drew has 2 dogs, 3 times as many chickens. Boom. So how many chickens does Miss Drew have? When you underline your question and you have your circled numbers, you evaluate and see that your bar model that you drew shows you have 3 times 2, which is 6. That's the number that would go below your bracket on chickens. So she has 6 chickens, and she has 2 dogs. It's only asking how many chickens does Miss Drew have. If it asks how many dogs and chickens, the answer would be different because you would add the dogs with that. But that's not what it's asking. But always pay attention because that might be a question later on. Number 9 says, is the number 74 prime and why? Automatically, to save time, the T-charts that are in Google Classroom, I gave the answer key to it so that way they can continue to study those. So the number 74, if we look in the ones place, it's even. Every even number is automatically composite. So you can write that as your explanation, but we all know that 74 is even because it ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. So 74 will be composite. So you can write it out. And if you want to do a T-chart later on, you can look at that T-chart after the video or pause it right here and go and look and set up your T-chart for 74, which is 1 times 74, 2 times 37. I'll put myself on the spot right here. 2 times 37 will give you 74. And if you go to 3 next, we're always going in order on the left column, going this way. 1, 2, 3 won't work because if you add the 2 digits, 7 plus 4, if you've seen the divisibility rules in Google Classroom, I posted some days ago, 7 plus 4 is 11. That's not a multiple of 3, so 3 will not be included in this. Continue on, 4. Will 4 work? We look, can we skip count by 4? You can start scratching it out over here if you'd like. To save time right now, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this question down and move on to number 10, so that way it'll give you an opportunity to pause it and go finish out that T-chart to see if there's any missing numbers right now. I'm gonna delete this and keep rolling up. Number 10 says, which is a prime number? Well, we talked about this one in class actually already. Which is a prime number? Every number that's even, you can go ahead and mark it off because prime numbers are not even. 72 is even. I would not pick that one because there's a 2 in the ones place. Remember, the trick is 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. The only other options are 55, 31, and 49. Well, if we look at 55, we automatically know that when we draw our T-chart, 55, obviously our first factor pair is 1 and 55, and we skip 2, 5, and know that it's a double number, and we're always going to get 11 as a factor right there. So that won't work either. And 49 is one of those double factors. Like if you have 2 times 2, it would be 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. When you get to 7, 7 times 7 is 49. So that's a composite number. Remember, if you're getting anything other than 1 in itself, it's going to be composite. Even if it's one extra number, like I'm telling students, do not write the same factor twice. For example, 1 and 9, factoring 9 out, you put a 3, you wouldn't put 2 3s. That number has exactly 3 factors. It does not have 4 factors. You do not write the 3 twice. That might come up later on. 31 is the only one that is prime because the only 2 factors when factoring out the number 31 is 1 and 31. Number 11, which pair of numbers is a factor pair of 36? I told students if they see the word and, it's multiplication when we're talking about factor pairs. So which pair of numbers is going to give you 36? 1 times 35 won't work. First glance, students are going to see that and go, oh, it adds up to get that. That's not how factor pairs work. That is not true. 2 times 18 will give you 36. 3 times 14 will not. If you do the math with that one, it's like 42. That won't give you 36 at all. 4 times 8 is 32. Students are picking that one because when it comes to memorization, they get to 32 and skip on accident and go straight to 36 because they know 36 is a multiple of 4. Remember, 4 times 8 is 32. Practice your multiples. Number 12 says a trip from Connecticut to Mississippi is 1,323 miles. A trip from Mississippi to Washington State is 2,713 miles. What is the difference between these two distances? I always tell students, circle your numbers, underline your question. What are your math action words that stand out? When we went over this in class, difference was our math action word, and we know that's subtraction. Everything else, there's a lot of stuff that you can just take away from this whole question. It's talking about a trip. We're going from Connecticut to Mississippi. It's talking about a trip. They're going from Mississippi to Washington. And then it stops and it asks you a question, the difference between the two distances. Well, this is all that matters in that whole problem. Everything else, don't worry about it because it only wants the difference of those two numbers. Believe it or not, this standard with using standard algorithm and subtracting a multi-digit number is a struggle right now because students are moving too fast through these. Take your largest number if we're finding the difference and put it on top. I'll do it over here for sake of space. 2,713 minus 1,323. Lining up my place values, making sure everything's nice and neat. That is not a 1, that is a comma. 3 minus 3 in your ones place, you're going to get 0. 1 minus 2, can't take 2 away from that. We need to go next door, make the 7 a 6, and put a 1 with our other 1 right here. You're borrowing 100 and adding it to 110, so that now is 110. Students are turning these numbers when they borrow and regroup and turning them into zeros. That is not how this works. So we went over place value and used some manipulatives. Please refresh their memory if you watch this video tonight and throughout the year. When we borrow and regroup, this becomes 1 less. You're adding 1 to the digit that's already there. So 11 minus 2 is going to be 9. 6 minus 3 is 3 in your hundredths place, comma. 2 minus 1 is 1. Now, commas are very important. It's going to ask you in the future on tests to put a comma where necessary. Remember to start at the place value all the way to the right, the least place value, and start counting by 3s for each period. 1, 2, 3, comma. Remember, every 3 digits is a period when you start from the right and go to the left. Number 13 says, what is 4,490 plus 9,398? Those two numbers, they're being added. Pay attention to your symbols and put the large number on top anyway, even though it is addition. Also, another struggling skill right now because we're making little careless mistakes. Go all the way to the ones place. 8 plus 0 is 8. 9 plus 9 is 18. Make sure you regroup and circle your regroup just in case you got to do any regrouping or a lot of regrouping up top. And it separates all that from being all wonky looking. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 4 more is 8. We have our comma. 9 plus 4 is 13. Your answer is 13,888. The next question says, Aubrey put packs of pencils on each table if she had an equal amount. Ooh, I'm just gonna go ahead and put something around that right there. That seems like it's important. If she had an equal amount of pencils on each table, okay? Each table. Equal amount on each table. And she started with 50 pencils, which could she have put on the tables? All the numbers are circled in the problem. The question is underlined. I saw equal amount in each table as I read through that problem. I'm going to look at A, B, C, and D and see that every one of them say packs of, packs of, packs of, packs of. I told students when we're talking about this unit, packs of automatically tells you multiplication. So I put an X over those. And you see 30 times 20. That's not, she started with 50 pencils. It's asking which could she have put on the table. Okay? 30 packs of 20 pencils is 600. That's not going to give you 50. 30 plus 20 will, but it's multiplication. 5 packs, because if you have one pack, it's got multiple pencils in there. Remember, that's going to be why we're saying multiplication, because of our math action word each, meaning multiplication in this scenario. 5 times 100, 500, not 50. Easy mistake right there also. 10 times 5, winner, winner, chicken dinner. 8 times 9, 72, not going to work. C is our only logical answer.